Okay, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Okay, can you hear my voice?
Waalaikumsalam. Boleh.
Yes, sir.
Alright. Okay. So there are 54 roughly lah. So because based on the group, I think it should be 57, but now it's 55. Okay, never mind. Okay, we can start our first lecture for this semester on the topic of overview of Malaysian construction industry. So I believe you have downloaded the notes that I given you in eFuture. So you can refer the notes while
Yes, sir.
alright, you can refer the notes while I'm giving the lecture lah. Sebentar. Okay, can you see the slides now?
No, sir.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now okay?
Boleh.
Okay, sir.
Alright, so starting from today, we are going to focus on the first part of our subject, BCM 523. Okay, as I mentioned last week, this subject is divided into two parts, theoretical and also calculation. So starting from this week until I think week 5 or 6, we are going to cover the theoretical part of the subject, which consisted of two big topics, the function and behavior of the construction industry, and as well the second topic is government policy. Sekejap dia nak join lagi. Okay, so under the first big topic, which is the functional behavior of the construction industry, there are a few subtopics that we are going to go through. So today, what we are going to go through is that we are going to focus on the overview of Malaysian construction industry. Okay, so we are going to have a scenario of Malaysian construction industry, especially in terms of how we can define construction industry. And we are going to have a look on the role, importance, and also characteristic of construction industry, especially towards improving our national economy. And the last part of today's lecture, we are going to focus on GDP, which is stand for Gross Domestic Product, okay, Keluaran Dalaman Negara Kasar. So we are going to see what is GDP all about, what does it means to our country, and how construction industry can contribute to our GDP. Okay, that's what we are going to discuss today. Okay, so firstly, we are going to straight away have a look on the definition and roles of construction industry. Okay, as you can see, the term itself, construction industry, can bring some confusion to certain people. Okay, some people might call it as a building industry. Some people will call it as a combination of both construction and building industry. And nowadays, people use a new term such as built environment, sustainable construction, and so on. So whatever people call it, construction industry can be defined in many ways. There are many definitions that you can find in the literature lah. Okay, one of them is you can obtain or derive from the alright, from Malaysian Construction Law Act 520. As you can see in the slide, it defined that construction industry as the construction, extension, installation, repair, maintenance, renewal, removal, alteration, dismantling, or demolition. So that's the type of work under construction. It's not only about construction. Okay, it's also involve installation, renovation, maintenance. Okay, renovation, and even demolition of, as you can see from A to E, it show that this is the type of works under construction industry. They involve building works, roads, drainage, electrical, and etc., bridge, dam, and etc. So there are many types of works under the category of construction industry. So that's how we can, one of the ways that we can define construction industry in a more formal way lah. Okay. Besides that, construction industry also can be defined based on the activities involved. From those activities, we can extract a product, okay, an end products. So as you all know, and you're aware that construction industry involve many stages, okay, from planning, designing, construction, repair, maintenance, alteration, and demolitions. This is some of the activities involved, key activities involved in the construction industry. Okay, before we can start to construct something, we need to plan what we are going to construct. Okay, we need to develop a proper plan, and then we start to design. And after design, of course, there will be a tendering stage. Okay, whether it is a open tender or selective tender, so contractor will bid. Then we are going to choose the most suitable contractor. Then we are going to move on to the next activity, which is construction lah. So after we finish the construction, we need to maintain. So any repair, any defect, we need to repair. Any, of course, some of our end product will be require alteration. Kita akan buat renovation and so on. And after a certain period of time, maybe after 20 years, 30 years, we want to redevelop the area. We are going to demolish that building, and we will start all over again. So that's what we can see as a common activities involved in the construction industry lah. So in those activities, it involve different type of organization. Okay, as you can see here that construction industry involve many organization, from planning sampai lah ke demolition. Even kat construction stage pun kita boleh tengok we are involving a lot of people. Okay, from contractor, main-con, sub-cons, consultant, etc. Okay, so from those activities, if we properly plan and manage, we can produce products or end products, which involve, for example, like buildings, airport, harbour, electrical, telecommunication, gas work, roads, bridge, reclamation, sewers, dams, and pipelines. Okay, this is some of the examples of products produced by the construction industry based on the well-planned and managed of activities tadi. Okay, so I believe you familiar with this product, except maybe for this one, reclamation. Okay, so for your information, reclamation ni is a land reclamation, proses penambakan tanah, which you're going to learn in Constat Part 7 nanti. Okay, which has been done a lot in our country, for example in Melaka, in some part of Johor, even in Terengganu, when they extend the airport in Terengganu, they tambak the laut, the sea lah tu, itu kita panggil land reclamation. You're going to learn about the process nanti lah di part 7 nanti. So that's one of the way that we can define construction industry as well lah. So in conclusion, the simplest way we can define construction industry is about embraces a wide range of integrated organization. As I mentioned just now, construction industry involve many organizations. As you can see the activities listed just now, from planning sampai demolition. So every activities involve different organization, many organization. So those organizations that involve in the construction industry must realize that they must have Dia nak join lagi. Dia dengar macam dia nak join tadi. Tak ada dah. Okay, so those organizations must realize that they have the responsibility, okay, to construct, alter, and repair of building and civil engineering structures or infrastructure works. Okay, that's the category of works under construction industry, which can be divided into two main categories: building works and also civil engineering works, which consists of the infrastructure works, infrastructure projects. Okay, building works, building projects, for example, like institutional, commercial, industrial building. Okay, meanwhile for infrastructure works, it's involved, for example, like roads, bridge, dam, and etc. So that's one of the simplest way we can define construction industry lah in general. Alright, next we are going to have a look on the role of construction industry, especially towards our national economy. Okay, actually construction industry play a big role in our economy. Okay, yep. Ada kita dengar nak join. Okay, there are many roles of construction industry, especially towards improving our national economy. However, in this part, I only give you the main role of construction industry towards our national economy, which is to generate and improve the quality of life for nations through the translation of government socio-economic policies into social and economic infrastructures and buildings. So, in order to get this main role, in order for the construction industry to contribute more towards our economy, we need to have a proactive government which focusing on developing our country. Okay, so means that the government must have their master plan, what they want to do, what they want to develop, how they want to develop our country, what type of building, and etc. Okay, so when we have a proper a proactive government which focusing on developing our country, indirectly we can contribute to the economy. Okay, macam mana kita boleh contribute, what does this statement means? Okay, I give you a scenario. How can construction industry improve kita punya quality of life? Okay, for example, like kita pergi jauh sikit, alright. For example, like in some of the African countries, okay, maybe in, for example, like Zimbabwe ke, okay, South Africa ke, saya tak pernah sampai, tapi just scenario yang kita boleh gambarkan lah. Okay, for example, like in that particular country, for example, like Zimbabwe, they still don't have a proper infrastructure. Okay, jalan dia orang masih tak elok, masih tanah merah dan sebagainya. So indirectly, dia punya quality of life, standard of living masih rendah. Okay, compare to our country. Okay, in Malaysia kita tengok the nearest example between urban area and also rural area. Okay, the quality of life, the standard of living also different. Okay, between rural and also urban area. Okay, kawasan bandar kita boleh tengok quality of life dia tinggi, standard of living dia pun tinggi sebab kita ada proper infrastructure, a lot of facilities and so on, compared to rural area, kawasan pedalaman dan sebagainya. So that's how construction industry can contribute to our national economy lah in terms of their role. Okay, the construction industry will translate the plan proposed by the government into reality. Okay, government want to build a highway, kita akan buat highway. New airport, kita akan buat airport. Kita nak buat new high-rise building, tower, skyscrapers and so on. So the construction industry will translate those plans into reality. So that's the main role of construction industry towards our economy, which when we translate those plans into reality, indirectly kita akan improve kita punya Malaysian punya standard of living, quality of life. Okay, so that's the main role of construction industry lah. Alright. Okay, next we are going to have a look on the importance of construction industry. Sekejap Okay, next we have a look on the importance of construction industry. Okay, there are many importance of construction industry, especially against towards our national economy. Okay, in fact, construction industry ni is a very important sector or industry in developing countries like Malaysia. Peranan dia sangat besar. Okay, dalam negara membangun macam kita di Malaysia. Alright. But the main important things about construction industry is that construction industry can act as an economic prime mover. Okay, economic prime mover, penggerak utama ekonomi negara developing countries like Malaysia. Okay, dia akan menjadi penggerak utama. Okay, how can construction industry become an economic prime mover? Itu persoalan dia. Macam mana dia boleh jadi penggerak utama? Okay, the main reason why construction industry can be considered as an economic prime mover because construction industry can simply create the element of multiplier effect. Okay, remember this term. I will always use this term throughout this subject. Okay, throughout this semester for this particular subject. Construction industry can easily create what we call it as an economic, can easily create multiplier effect. Okay, what is multiplier effect actually? Okay, if we translate it into Malay, multiplier effect means kesan berantai, kesan berganda. Okay, so maksudnya bila kita gunakan construction industry dalam ekonomi kita, dia akan menghasilkan kesan berantai. Okay, so macam mana dia? Saya give you simple scenario. Okay, when we have a project, okay, government propose a project. Okay, let's say lah nak buat highway, new building and so on. So when there is a project, construction industry will be responsible to complete the project. Okay, kita construction industry akan dapat tanggungjawab penuh untuk siapkan projek tersebut. Okay. However, we cannot stand alone. Maksudnya kita tak boleh buat seorang because construction industry is a big size. Okay. First, we need materials. Okay. So when we need material means that manufacturing industry will get the benefits. Sebab apa? Material ni produce, siapa yang produce? Manufacturing industry. Okay. Sektor pembuatan. Manufacturing industry akan produce all those materials. So, secara tak langsung bila ada projek, construction industry akan bergerak, manufacturing industry also will move together, will move along. Dia pun akan bergerak juga sebab there is a demand from the construction industry. Okay. So that's one of the factor. Okay, yang scenario of multiplier effect tadi yang saya cuba bagi contoh. Alright. Another example, besides manufacturing industry yang get the benefit, will get the effect from the projects, construction industry also needs financial sector. Okay, sebab apa? Sebab bila kita ada projek, kita akan gunakan bank. Okay, untuk, of course, when there is a project, kita akan ada what we call it as a performance bonds dan sebagainya, jaminan dekat bank dan sebagainya, gaji kerja akan masuk bank, insurance, and so on. So secara tak langsung, these two main sectors will get the benefits when there is a project. Manufacturing and also financial sector. Itu just a simple example lah. Okay, banyak lagi sebenarnya kesan berantai. Okay, that's we are going to explore more later on. Okay, nanti later kita akan pergi lagi jauh. Kita boleh tengok kesan berantai dan macam mana pergerakan dia. Ini just a simple scenario saya bagi. Contoh apa yang dimaksudkan dengan multiplier effect ni. Alright, so that's the main important things about construction industry. What we call it as the creation of multiplier effects. Okay. So in this part, I'm going to conclude or summarize the importance of construction industry. The importance of construction industry into two. Okay, two importance. Alright, both importance that I'm going to show you after this will relate to the element of multiplier effect. Dia berkait dengan kesan berantai tadi. Okay, the first one, enable socio-economic development. Okay, this importance of construction industry will show the creation of multiplier effect after the completion of the project. Okay, so construction industry ni unik whereby dia bukan saja boleh menghasilkan kesan berantai semasa projek berjalan, selepas projek siap pun it still can create the element of multiplier effect. Okay, that's the uniqueness of construction industry ni lah. Okay, apa yang dimaksudkan dengan enable socio-economic development ni? It means that it will enable the growth of other industry through its role as fundamental building block. Kita buat satu projek, bila projek tu siap, secara tak langsung dia akan beri efek pada other industries. Okay, so for example, essential elements of a healthy and functioning economy, such as kita buat educational system, kita buat sekolah banyak. Okay, kita buat sekolah banyak-banyak, kita buat universities and so on. So, macam mana dia boleh bagi benefits pada ekonomi? Sebab remember, education is one of the most important aspect in the country. Sebab dia akan prepare for future generation. Okay, kalau kita nak prepare for future generation, kita need a proper educational system. Okay, so nak ada proper educational system, kita kena ada proper schools and universities. So so in this case, bila kita siapkan sekolah, siapkan universiti secara tak langsung, kita punya generation will be properly educated. Okay, akan ada tempat yang bagus untuk belajar dan sebagainya. Itu one of the way, secara tak langsung selepas projek tu siap. Okay, government offices. Okay, for example, like when our ex-Prime Minister Tun Mahathir, okay, bukan yang sebelum ni, yang before this, masa dia jadi PM nombor berapa masa tu 4, okay, number 4 masa dia jadi yang lama tu, 22 years tu. Okay, he built that Putrajaya. It's a one-stop center for government offices. Okay, so bila kita ada proper government administration, indirectly it will influence the investors. Okay, so investors ni dia akan tengok how stable the government is and so on. So kalau kita ada proper administration of the government, dan the proper government center offices dan sebagainya, so indirectly will convince the investors to invest in our country. So that's how they can create the impact after the completion of that Putrajaya. Okay, and of course tourist attractors. Okay, ini paling senang kita boleh tengok contoh macam mana how construction industry can create multiplier effect after the completion of the project. So for example like KLCC. Okay, sebelum KLCC ni, maybe sebelum ada KLCC, maybe orang tak kenal Malaysia, tak ada pelancong dah datang, kurang pelancong datang. Okay, once the KLCC has been completed, there are a lot of tourists that come to Malaysia. So indirectly, it will influence the tourism sector. Itu yang akan dapat benefits. Okay, secara tak langsung kita beri benefits pada industri lain. Industri lain pun akan berkembang. So that's the most important part of construction industry, which is the multiplier effect. Okay, so that's how the construction industry create multiplier effects after the completion of the construction project. Okay, the second important construction industry is develop complementary industry. Okay, this one I already mentioned just now. I already shared the scenarios just now. Okay, so in this aspect, we are going to see how construction industry creates the multiplier effect during the construction project, semasa projek berjalan. Okay, yang first tadi semasa selepas projek siap. Yang ini semasa projek berjalan. Okay, so we are going to generate tremendous spillover opportunities, peluang yang banyak. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, kepada manufacturing industry, because we are a large user of building and construction materials. Okay, sama ada cement, iron, steel, etc. Okay, specialized tool, okay, machineries, equipment, okay, kita pengguna yang banyak. Okay, backhoe dan sebagainya, for example, heavy machine tadi, cranes dan sebagainya. And of course, we give a lot of impact towards financial services. Okay, we are going to have a loan, for example, insurance, etc. So that's how important construction industry towards our national economy. Okay, so again, the idea of importance of construction industry ni adalah the creation of multiplier effect. Okay, kesan berantai, kesan berganda yang kita boleh create semasa projek berjalan dan selepas projek siap. Okay, so that's how important construction industry towards our national economy, especially in developing countries in Malaysia. That's why you can see when we are facing a lot of economic problems, banyak government kita introduce project. Okay, sebab that's one of the instrument yang kita gunakan to solve the economy, which we are going to learn more detail about it later on. Okay, right. Any question so far? Boleh, kalau ada soalan boleh type dekat chat session, tak perlu buka mic. Boleh type lepas tu nanti saya tengok. Kalau ada boleh type, saya boleh tengok sekejap. Antara kita sambung. Okay, kalau tak ada kita boleh sambung. we are going to have a look on the characteristic of construction industry. Okay, again, we will reflect on the idea on contributing to our national economy lah. So basically there are 8 characteristic of construction industry. Ada 8. Okay, yang pertama ni kita tengok these pictures. Okay, ada different type of housing project. Okay, from landed properties, kita ada medium or low cost apartment, and kita ada condominium maybe. Alright. And then we also have a different type of projects. Okay, ada KL Tower, KLCC, KLIA. Yang ni tahu apa? Atas KLIA ni. Anyone boleh mencelah? Yang ni, bawah rumah teres ni.
Tak tahu.
Tak tahu?
Bangunan SPRM.
Oish. Ini tak boleh panjat ni, tinggi sangat. Bukan SPRM. Okay, this building is located at Mount Kiara. Okay, this is a Security Commission building. Okay, kat sinilah terletak kita punya Suruhanjaya Komunikasi Multimedia, SKMM, yang control kita punya internet usage, website. Okay, kalau kita nak komplain pasal orang fitnah, pasal posting kat media sosial ke whatever ke, kat sinilah. Okay, it's located at Mount Kiara. Okay, it's an intelligent building lah actually. Okay, so from those pictures, from these images, we can identify the first characteristic of construction industry, which is size of the project. Okay, that's the first characteristic of the construction industry, size of the project. Okay, so when we talk about construction project, construction project itself can involve variety of sizes. Okay, from small scale project, medium scale project, large scale project, and nowadays we have mega projects. Okay, daripada projek yang bernilai puluh ribu, ratus ribu, jutaan ribu, berbilion ringgit. Okay, projects yang kita. So from there, from this first characteristic, which is the size of the project, we can see the impact to our economy. It means that the bigger the project, the bigger the impact we can produce towards our economy. Okay, semakin besar projek tu, skala projek tu, semakin besarlah impact dia kepada ekonomi. Okay, so in the context of size of the project, we can also refer to, when we are talking about size of the project, it also relates to the size of, or the amount of workers needed, and also the amount of materials needed. Okay, so means that the bigger the project, the more workers needed in our construction industry. Sebab our construction industry in Malaysia still prefer to use labor intensive method, okay, which is conventional method, traditional method of construction. In a positive way, it's a good sign, because bila kita ada projek berskala besar, kita akan menyediakan peluang pekerjaan yang banyak sebab kita menggunakan tenaga kerja yang ramai untuk construction industry. So bila orang dapat kerja, dia ada income, so dia boleh spend duit tu dan sebagainya. So itu the good thing about construction industry. We will provide a lot of job opportunities sebab kita menggunakan tenaga kerja yang ramai. But the negative side of providing a lot of job opportunities is that the job opportunities is not being filled by local people. Okay? Sebab bila we are talking about construction industry ni, kita boleh cakap kebanyakannya dipenuhi oleh warga asing. Okay. The question is why there are so many foreign workers working in the construction industry. Kenapa? What do you think? Kenapa, why we find it difficult to attract local people? Kenapa orang kita tak suka kerja di construction industry?
Susah.
Specialize.
Gaji murah.
Susah.
Belajar spesialis kan.
Penat.
Orang Malaysia terlalu santai.
Terlalu santai, comfort zone. Okay, memilih kerja. Alright, that's semua betul. Okay, that's among the reason yang kita boleh consider. Okay, bila kita tengok why we fail to attract local people. Okay, on these questions, kenapa local people susah nak kerja, kenapa terlalu ramai foreign workers and how we can deal with this issue, macam mana kita nak reduce the dependency on foreign workers, kita akan discuss on next lecture nanti. Okay, maybe next week tu kita akan discuss macam mana kita nak kurangkan tenaga kerja asing kat Malaysia ni. Okay, that's one of the issue lah yang kita akan discuss later. Alright, so that's one of the positive ways of construction industry. Kita akan provide a lot of job opportunities. Okay. And the bigger the project, besides providing a lot of job opportunities, we also will use a lot of materials. Okay, a high proportion of materials. Okay, sebab bila projek makin besar, makin banyak demand untuk material. So secara tak langsung kita boleh give a huge impact to the manufacturing industry. Okay, semakin banyaklah demand untuk simen, besi dan sebagainya. So that's how the size of the project could impact our economy. Ada lagi nak join? Okay, so that's the first characteristic of construction industry, which is the size of the project. The second one, okay, the second one is have a look on these pictures, these images. Okay, we can see yang pertama ni ada sekolah, universities, and the below row we can see different type of infrastructure projects from highways, monorail, train, bridge. Okay, so the question is, who's behind this project? Anyone?
Government.
Alright, so that's the second characteristic of construction industry. The government as a main client. Okay, government memainkan peranan yang besar kepada construction industry because majority of large scale project or mega project will come from the government. Okay, kalau government tak ada projek besar, construction industry will suffer. Okay, so government main peranan yang sangat besar dalam ekonomi kita, especially towards our construction industry. Okay, so when we talk about government, okay, as a government, you have to focus on the four basic areas of economy in managing the government. Okay, dalam nak manage government kita, nak manage country kita, ada 4 basic economic terms yang kita kena have a look, kena betul-betul fokus. Banyak sebenarnya tapi 4 ni paling basic. Okay, 4 key elements that the government need to focus in managing the economy. Okay, yang pertama adalah government need to think about how they can prepare a budget. Okay, ni yang pertama. Okay, so ni sekarang mula Oktober dah. Oktober dah. Kan? So normally towards the end of the year, October or November, biasanya Oktober, tapi sejak last year and this year, bila kita tengok government kita pun tak berapa stabil, they delay the presentation of the budget, okay, ke November tak silap. Sebelum ni memang every Oktober, setiap bulan Oktober, hujung Oktober, hari Jumaat terakhir, okay, the last Friday in that month in October, the government, the Minister of Finance will present the budget for the next year. Okay, so dia akan bentangkan budget. Sebelum dia bentangkan, of course they need to have a meeting. Okay, they need to decide which area that they need to invest more. Mana area yang dia perlu letakkan duit lebih, kat mana? Dekat education ke, dekat health ke, dekat project ke dan sebagainya. Okay, so they are going to have a discussion and then they're going to decide, then they're going to present. Okay, dia akan present, so dah present, dia akan fight dekat Dewan Rakyat, argue, approve, barulah dia start implement tahun depan. Okay, so that's the first thing the government kena consider, okay, about budget. Okay, macam mana dia nak allocate budget. That's the first thing. Okay, the second areas that the government need to have a look is that they need to think on how they can obtain a healthy balance of payment. Okay, macam mana nak dapat balik. Sebab yang bajet tadi, diorang kena spend, diorang kena labur duit, kena bagi duit. Okay, nak bagi Kementerian Pendidikan 1 bilion, Kementerian Kesihatan 2 bilion contohnya. Okay, dah bagi tu of course nak balik. Okay, konsep government ni normal. Okay, kena ada give and take. So, macam mana diorang nak dapat balik? Tak adalah nak dapat semua balik. Okay, at least dapat lah. Okay, tak semua pun dapat lah. Maybe roughly 50% dan sebagainya. Okay, how they can obtain a healthy balance of payment? Maksudnya they need to find ways. Macam mana diorang nak dapat balik duit tu. Okay, itulah masanya dia gunakan tax. Okay, maybe dia akan laburkan dekat other countries. Okay, hasil negara macam minyak ke, dia jual lebih ke dan sebagainya. That's how they going to consider lah. Jadi dia nak kembangkan, nak dapat pulangan balik. Okay, selain daripada tax, benda yang paling senang lah tax. Dia charge kita, dia dah bagi, dia charge kita tax, dia dapat balik. Okay, so that's the second area. Alright, the third area that the government need to focus is how they need to control inflation. Okay, ini penting. How they can control inflation. Okay, so inflation, if the inflation rate is too high in our country, it's not good. Okay, so bila inflation terlalu tinggi, dia tak bagus untuk ekonomi kita. Okay, sebab inflation ni dia berkait rapat dengan kenaikan harga barang. Okay, harga barang ni akan naik. Okay, kita tak boleh nafikan. Okay, they will increase. But kita tak nak kenaikan harga barang tu naik secara mendadak. Okay, kalau naik secara mendadak, sedangkan kita punya kemampuan tak boleh nak membayar lagi pada harga tersebut. Itu yang membuatkan inflation rate naik tinggi, melambung dan sebagainya. So kita kena control inflation. Okay, jangan terlalu tinggi. So kalau terlalu tinggi, kita kena control. Find ways to control inflation. Okay, so that's the third areas that the government to focus. Okay, the last one that the government need to focus in managing the economy is how they can manage the unemployment rate, tahap pengangguran. Okay. Berapa tahap pengangguran negara sekarang ni? Anyone tahu? Tahu sesiapa kadar pengangguran? Kita tak ambil tahu sebab you are student, belum kerja lagi, tak ambil tahu pun.
Tak ada.
Roughly any idea? Tak ada rough idea. Berapa unemployment?
2000, right?
Berapa?
Not to 2000.
23%.
23%. Oh, tinggi Okay. Normally unemployment rate dekat Malaysia is between 3 to 4%. Normally. Itu yang dikeluarkan oleh Jabatan Statistik Negara. Okay. Itu kalau ditipu, saya pun tipu awak lah. Tapi itu yang dikeluarkan oleh data statistik negara, Department of Statistic Malaysia. Okay. Between 3 to 4% previously. Okay. Sebab kalau if unemployment rate of our country is more than 4%, bukan our country lah, mana-mana negara pun kalau unemployment rate the more than 4%, it means that the government didn't do their job properly. Maksudnya the government did not provide reasonable rate of employment. Okay, peluang pekerjaan yang memadai. Okay, kita nak cakap mencukupi itu mustahil. Okay, government kena main peranan sediakan peluang pekerjaan yang memadai. Okay, nak cakap mencukupi itu mustahil. So, if more than 4% maksudnya ekonomi kita tak bagus, government kita tak ada plan yang cukup efisien untuk cater the economic problems. Okay, I'm going to show you the latest data. Berapa kita punya unemployment rate sekarang. Okay, ini bukan saya cakap. Ini daripada Department of Statistics Malaysia. Berapa tu? Ini dikeluarkan Julai. Okay, 14 Julai 2020. You can see here 5.3%. Okay. Maksudnya more than 4%. Something wrong dengan kita tak boleh blame government 100% juga lah with the current scenario sekarang ni. Okay, because we are facing difficult situation. Okay, not only Malaysia lah, other countries as well because of this pandemic, okay, COVID-19 ni. Okay, so that's the current lah, 5.3%. Okay, which is more than 4% lah. Okay, means that the government need to do more to reduce this unemployment rate in our country. Okay. Okay, that's the second characteristic of construction industry. Okay, the third one As you can see, this is the different site condition when you involved in the construction project, in construction industry. Okay, from high-rise project, okay, tower crane kalau ada, if you involved in high-rise project, inside you messy, okay, foto, you imagine lepas hujan, okay, sebab again, because we are using a labor intensive method, kita gunakan tenaga kerja ramai, banyak kerja-kerja yang dilakukan on-site, okay, tak banyak kerja buat kat kilang hantar ke site macam kita pakai IBS, alright. Nanti kita, we are going to touch on IBS later on the next lecture as well, okay. So from these images, we can identify the third characteristic of construction industry, which is this is the nature of construction works. Inilah nature dia, okay. So when we talk about nature of construction work, we cannot, construction industry cannot run from the image 3D images. Okay, pernah dengar 3D images? Apa 3D tu? Anyone?
Dirty, dangerous.
Tak
Dengar?
dengar tadi doktor.
Dengar? Dirty, dangerous.
Dirty,
Satu D.
dangerous.
Difficult. Okay, so 3D images. Kita selagi, as long as we still using the labor intensive method, which is conventional method of construction, selagi itulah kita tak boleh lari daripada 3D images ni tadi. Dirty, dangerous, difficult. Okay, site kita akan kotor. Sebab apa? Bila kita pakai labor intensive method, banyak kerja-kerja dijalankan on site, especially concreting works. Okay, concreting works ni antara kerja penyumbang terbesar site kita jadi kotor. Okay, sebab banyak ingredient of the concrete itself. Okay, ada simen, ada pasir, aggregate dan sebagainya, air lagi. Okay, so selagi kita pakai labor intensive method, conventional method, selagi itulah site kita tak boleh bersih. Okay, it's always going to be dirty. Okay, secondly, dangerous. Okay, especially when you involve in high-rise project, accident can happen anytime. Especially kat Malaysia ni yang safety bukan dia punya priority. Okay, kita boleh nampak banyak case melibatkan accident. Okay, latest yang I think last month kot, yang beam ke apa jatuh dekat highway tu, 4 kereta. Okay, nasib baik tak mati orang tu. Alright, so that's dangerous, okay, especially when you have a high-rise projects lah. Okay, and the last D is difficult. Okay, dalam dekat drawing je kita dah tengok susahnya nak construct tu, apatah lagi kita nak transform it into reality. Okay, so that's the challenge of construction industry lah. Okay, that's the nature yang kita reflects the idea of characteristic of construction industry, the nature. Okay, alright, tadi saya cakap ada 8, kita dah pergi 3. Size, influence of government as a client, nature of construction works. Okay, kita dah discuss these 3. And yang keempat is the high cost of construction item. Okay, this is one of the characteristics of construction industry. Okay, construction item or product can be too expensive. Okay, sama ada construction product, material tu sendiri, ataupun selepas siap jadi satu produk pun boleh jadi too expensive. Okay, the question is why construction item or materials or construction product itself can be too expensive. Kenapa dia boleh jadi terlalu mahal? Apa sebab dia? Anyone?
For business.
Ha?
Business.
Business. Apa maksud business tu?
Limited supply, sir.
Limited supply.
Banyak demand.
Banyak demand. Okay, that's among the reason why. Okay, and selain daripada what your friend stated just now, one of the reason why construction item or product can be too expensive is that the inefficiencies of the construction project itself. Okay, saya tanya you all lah. Kita ada contoh 10 projek kat Malaysia ni. Dalam 10 projek ni, berapa yang boleh siap on time?
1.
Dapat 1 pun kita boleh buat sujud syukur lah. Okay, so you are going to find it difficult to find a project in Malaysia that can be completed on time. Okay, kalau projek tu duration dia bagi 2 tahun, boleh siap 2 tahun. Okay, susah. Okay, susah. Kita sebab apa susah? Sebab projek sendiri, projek tu perjalanan dia tak smooth, tak efficient. Ada je gangguan dia. Okay, barang tak cukup. Okay, perubahan changes in design dan sebagainya. Ada je efek-efek dia. So bila projek kita tak lancar, secara tak langsung it will affect the cost. Okay, so cost akan bertambah. Alright, so that's one of the reason, the inefficiencies of the project itself. Okay, the second reason why the construction item product can be too expensive is that because of the complexity of the design itself. Okay, design tu terlalu kompleks, maksudnya terlalu susah. So means that the more difficult the design is, the more you need to pay. Okay, makin susah design, makin mahal harganya you nak kena bayar. Okay, and yang ketiga adalah the quality. Okay, of course, we as a user, we demand for the quality products. Okay, when you demand for the quality products, you have to pay more. Okay, you kena bayar lebih lah sebab kita demand quality. Okay, and yang keempat, because of the stringent statutory requirement. Okay, undang-undang regulation yang ketat, especially daripada local authorities. Local authorities ni pihak PBT. Contoh macam Insya Allah kita ada Majlis Bandaraya Shah Alam, MBSA. Kalau dekat kampung ke macam ada majlis daerah, majlis pembandaran Kuala Pilah ke, majlis pembandaran Muar ke dan sebagainya. Okay, so usually local authorities have a very strict rules, especially before you, especially when you want to obtain approval. Sebab bila you nak buat sesuatu projek dekat sesuatu kawasan, you need approval from local authorities. Contoh, you as a housing developers, okay, you are developers, okay, you nak buat rumah di Shah Alam, nak develop perumahan di Shah Alam. Okay, before you can start construct your housing projects, you need to obtain approval from MBSA, Bakat Shah Alam. Okay, for your information, sometimes in order to get the approval, it can take up to 18 months, 18 bulan, setahun 6 bulan. You imagine, you nak start buat ni, plan nak buat hujung tahun ni, tapi sebab approval delay lambat, sampai tahun depan baru dapat, adakah harga dia akan sama? Okay, sebab harga barang ni makin lama makin naik. Okay, so cost you akan bertambah. Okay, that's one of the reason why construction item is can be too expensive. Okay, selain daripada itu adalah slow pace of innovation. Kita lambat innovate. Okay, kita masih gunakan tenaga, masih gunakan cara lama, masih gunakan tenaga kerja ramai dan sebagainya. Kita lambat innovate, lambat gunakan teknologi yang baru dan sebagainya. And that's one of the reason why construction item or product can be too expensive as well. Okay, when we talking about innovation, kita akan touch tomorrow on innovation. Okay. Selain daripada 4 ni, kita ada lagi 4, which is variety of construction technology, organizational construction process, time lapse, structure of the construction industry. Okay, for variety of construction technology, kita boleh refer to 3M from materials, machinery and method. Okay, so kita ada variety of construction materials. Okay, daripada batu bata, kayu, besi dan sebagainya. Okay, ini nak buat bangunan, kita dah macam dah seolah-olah lock dalam mindset kita, nak bangunan mesti pakai batu bata. Sedangkan kita ada lot of option. Okay, kita ada boleh pakai timber, kita boleh pakai steel, kita boleh pakai glass as our building facade and so on. Okay, construction machineries. Okay, we have variety of construction machineries as well. From sekecil-kecil machine sampailah sebesar-besar machine yang kita boleh jumpa dalam construction industry. And the last one is construction method. Okay, we have a lot of option, not only using labor intensive method tadi, conventional method. We also can use, for example, like IBS, okay, industrialized building system. Okay, yang more robotic, more mechanized. Okay, kita, for example, IBS ni ada banyak jenis. Okay, from precast, kita ada timber, kita ada block work dan sebagainya, which you're going to learn on IBS later lah. Okay, part 6 nanti, konsep dia. But organization of the construction process. Okay, as I mentioned earlier during the definition of construction industry, I mentioned just now, construction industry involve many organizations. You are going to work with many organizations. When you are working with many organizations, what is the most important aspect to have? apa yang paling penting? Bila you bekerja dengan ramai orang ni, what is the most important part? The most important element to have?
Communication.
Anyone? Okay, that's the most important part. Communication. Of course, people will argue, akan cakap leadership penting, teamwork penting, cooperation penting. Of course, tu semua penting. But for me, the most important part is communication. Sebab tak ada communication, you takkan datang leadership, you takkan datang commitment, you takkan datang cooperation. You will start from communication. They sound simple, the communication. But because of communication, because of miscommunication, could delay the project. Once project delay, it will impact the cost. It's as simple as that. Okay, sebab bila you didn't communicate properly, it will affect the progress work of your projects. Okay, so communication is very important. And next is the time lapse involved. Okay, when we talking about time lapse, kita boleh refer to the size. Okay, makin besar project, makin lama time dia. Okay, ada project, maybe project small project, duration dia maybe sekejap dan sebagainya. And the last one is structure of the construction industry from client. Okay, client can be private or public or government as a client. Okay, turun pada Mencon dan sebagainya. Alright, so that's the characteristic of the construction industry that we can have a look lah, and we can explain some of it. I will explain more detail, and some of it I will just explain briefly lah to you all about the characteristic of construction industry. Okay, any question before we move on to the last part of today's lecture, which is GDP, Gross Domestic Product.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, if not clear, perhaps you have some question that you want to ask regarding today's lecture. You can ask now in chat session, or later maybe malam ke teringat bila you can post in the group as well. Okay, if you have any question related to the topics lah, I will respond as quickly as possible lah to the questions. And for information, today's lecture has been recorded. Saya record, and once I got the soft copy of the video, saya akan upload dalam YouTube lah. Okay, nanti saya akan share the link lah. Okay, so later on when you want to make a revision, you boleh tengok balik my lecture ni lah. Okay, untuk refresh balik. Okay, so for the last part, kita tengok is GDP, Gross Domestic Product. Pernah dengar GDP? In Malay is KDNK, Keluaran Dalaman Negara Kasar. Apa fungsi GDP ni? Apa pentingnya GDP ni kepada sesebuah negara? Okay, so GDP ni secara kasarnya untuk kita faham, dia akan, any country around the world will calculate their GDP in percentage. Dia akan keluarkan dalam percentage lah untuk senang baca. Kita boleh tengok detail dia, pecahan dia, boleh tengok. Nanti saya akan tunjuk satu report contoh GDP ni. Tapi yang pentingnya kita akan tengok percentage tu berapa. Okay, so apa maksud percentage GDP ni yang dikeluarkan oleh government any country around the world? Pentingnya GDP ni, percentage tu of GDP tu kita boleh identify whether that particular country has a stable economy or not, whether that particular country is rich or not, kaya ke tak, ekonomi stabil ke tak. Benda pertama yang kita akan tengok adalah GDP dia. That's the simple explanation that I can give you to give you a better understanding about GDP. Okay, pemahaman yang mudah. Tengok GDP, kita boleh tahu negara tu ekonomi dia stabil ke tak, negara tu kaya ke tak. So macam mana nak tahu stabil, macam mana nak kaya? As long as GDP dia positif, dia tahu ekonomi dia stabil. Makin besar percentage dia, maksudnya makin kaya lah negara tersebut. Kalau GDP dia negatif, maksudnya something wrong dengan ekonomi negara tersebut. Okay. Okay, ini saya nak you cari sebenarnya, tapi tak apalah. Saya dah carikan untuk you all. Okay. So soalan dia, what is the current GDP rate in Malaysia? What is the contribution rate of construction industry to the GDP in Malaysia? Okay, nanti saya akan tunjuk jawapan dia later. Sebelum tu kita tengok dia punya formal definition of GDP. Okay, ini dia punya formal definition. Tadi saya bagikan secara kasar, bahasa pasar dia, apa nak masukkan dengan GDP. Tapi secara formal dia, this is the definition of GDP. Okay, so the total market value of all finite goods and services produced in the country in the given year equal to total consumer investment and government spending plus the value of export minus the value of imports. Okay, nak calculate GDP ni, dia end up percentage dia. Nampak macam mudah je dapat percentage. Tapi nak dapat percentage dia is not easy. It's a long and complicated and complex process. Sebab apa? Sebab kita kena consider a lot of variables nak kira GDP. Pertama, kita kena consider consumer. Kita ni sebagai pengguna. Berapa banyak kita spend, berapa banyak kita demand dalam ekonomi. Investment from the government, investment from the private sector, investment from the foreign investors. Berapa banyak duit masuk kat kita ni. Kita kena kira tu. Government spending, berapa banyak government spending. Kita every sectors dalam ekonomi ni, daripada construction, manufacturing, financial, mining, agricultural, semua sektor ni kita kena consider. Berapa banyak dia orang contribute dalam ekonomi kita. Kita kena campur juga export. Export ni maksudnya barang-barang kita yang kita jual keluar, made in nation. Kita punya contoh apa barang kita made in nation. Contoh kereta, Proton contohnya, Pro 2 ke yang kita jual keluar. Kita ada petroleum dalam nama in the roof, under the name of Petronas. Berapa banyak, berapa gallon Petronas kita jual keluar. Itu semuanya income kita. Sebab bila kita jual keluar, duit akan masuk. Dalam masa yang sama kita juga beli barang luar, maksudnya barang import, made in China, made in US, made in Bangladesh dan sebagainya. Kita beli, bila kita beli duit tu akan keluar. Pergi ke China, pergi ke Bangladesh dan sebagainya. So kita kena tolak tu pula. It's not easy as I say. So kalau kita tunggu setahun, daripada Januari sampai Disember, kita nak tunggu kumpul data ni semua, nak dapatkan berapa percentage GDP kita, end up maybe dah akan ambil masa more than 6 months. Baru kita dapat berapa bacaan contoh 2020. So apa yang most of the government buat in any countries around the world, they will produce GDP quarterly. Setahun 4 kali. Maksudnya 3 bulan sekali. January to March, April to June, July to September, Oktober to December. 3 bulan sekali. Dia akan calculate GDP, keluarkan. Nak keluarkan GDP 3 bulan sekali ni pun dia ambil masa dalam sebulan ke 2 bulan. Lebih kurang sebulan, 1 to 2 months. Baru dia boleh produce GDP quarterly. So that's GDP. However, in our subject, kita tak belajar nak calculate GDP. Jangan risau. Itu bukan bidang kita. Kalau you nak belajar pasal nak calculate GDP, perhaps you boleh tukar program ambil degree in economics. Kita construction management, kita tak belajar calculate GDP. Kita just tahu apa GDP. So as I promised, I'm going to show you the latest GDP emission and berapa banyak construction kita contribute. Sorry. So government kita from under Department of Statistics will produce this report quarterly. Yang ni the latest. Latest pun inti untuk second quarter 2020. Second quarter April to June. April to June, 3 bulan. Ini baru dikeluarkan, I think tak silap saya last month kot. August, last 2 month. So untuk 3 bulan, 14 Ogos baru keluar, roughly dia ambil masa April to June, lebih kurang 2 bulan untuk keluarkan this report. So apa yang penting, dia banyaklah detail, tak perlulah nak tengok detail, saya nak tunjuk kat you page. English je lah. Ini previous record dia. Daripada first quarter 2019 kita positif 4.5. Second quarter 2019 4.8. Third quarter 4.4. Fourth quarter 3.6. So nak tahu berapa GDP kita for the whole year, you campurkan 4.4 ni, 4.5 tambah 4.8 tambah 4.4 tambah ni 3.6. Then you divide by 4. You akan dapat 4.3 roughly lah kita punya GDP last year 2019, 4.3. So Okay, that because trend GDP kat Malaysia ni between 4 to 6% normally. Okay, jarang kita dapat more than 10%. Nanti saya akan tunjuk satu lagi data later. Okay, itu 2019. 2020, first quarter masih positif. Okay, 0.7. As long as positif, still okay, walaupun rendah. Okay, tapi kalau you tengok sekarang ni, second quarter, negative 17.1%. This is the worst GDP in Malaysia up until today. Okay, nanti saya boleh tunjuk you letak. Tapi inilah yang paling teruk sekarang ni. Tak pernah berlaku dalam sejarah. Negatif 17.1. Okay, because as you know, kita ada dalam situasi yang agak critical. Ekonomi kita agak struggling and politik kita pun tak stable. Okay, so bila dua ni kita tak boleh lari, memang berkait politik dan ekonomi. So, bila politik tak stable, secara tak langsung ekonomi kita pun agak teruk. Okay, so kita akan discuss more later lah on that bila kita masuk government policy nanti. Okay, so ini antara contribution of industries towards our economy. Okay, kalau you tengok construction industry contribution dia negative 20. Maksudnya nothing much construction industry can do. Walaupun bergerak tapi tak banyak sebab quite slow ekonomi kita. Okay, so not only construction, almost semua sektor kecuali agriculture je yang positif. Yang lain semua negatif. Okay, so currently kita contribute negative 20%. Okay, so kita dah tengok the latest. Yang ni saya tunjuk you the trend. Okay, tak adalah sampai latest tapi just nak tunjuk you trend GDP dengan contribution of construction industry. Okay, I want you to focus on the green line. The green line ni represent the focus on the blue line dulu. Blue line ni is the overall GDP of our country. Okay, GDP dekat Malaysia. Okay. Okay, ini dia rekod daripada 1980 sampailah first quarter 2009. Okay, tak adalah sampai latest tapi dia just nak show you the trend lah. Okay, kalau you tengok GDP kita pada peringkat awal 1980 agak tinggi, 11.6. Okay, selepas tu consistently 6, 7 sampailah start daripada 87 sampai 97 ni. Agak menarik lah, impresif kita punya GDP between 9 to 10%. 9 to 10%. Okay, tinggi. Okay, masa ni zaman Tun Mahathir. Okay, dia punya Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, yang tepi. Okay, Datuk Seri Anwar. Saya tak sure dia jadi Menteri Kewangan daripada tahun bila. Tapi sampai 97 ni, 98 ni lah yang kena buang tu. Okay, dan kita ignore dulu negatif, jangan tengok negatif dulu. Saya just nak show the trend. So selepas tu start daripada 2002 ni zaman bosku, okay, Datuk Seri Najib dengan Pak Lah. Okay, the still okay between 5 to 6, ada naik lebih sikit, 6.8 adalah pernah 5.8%. Okay, and zaman Datuk Seri Najib pun sama juga, dia punya rate 5 to 6%, 4 to 6% lah roughly. Okay, dia punya GDP. Okay, kita punya GDP lah zaman tersebut. Sampailah tahun lepas. Okay, tapi tahun ni for sure akan negatif. Okay, so kalau you tengok ada beberapa kali range dia negatif. Okay, pada 84, 85 ni negatif 1.2, 1.1 ni. Okay, sini negatif 1.1. Okay, 1.2 lah lebih kurang negatif. Okay, 97, 98 negatif 7.4. 2009, early 2009 negatif 6.2. And 2020 ni will be negatif, cuma value dia kita tak tahu lagi sebab kita tak habis 2020 ni lagi. Okay, kalau you tengok kenapa tahun-tahun ni negatif, ini yang saya just bagi you idea dulu, sebab ini yang kita akan belajar dalam second topik tadi. Inilah kita panggil economic cycle. Okay, inilah yang kita panggil recession, kelembapan ekonomi. it will happen in any economy around the world. Dia akan berlaku. Cuma impact dia bergantung pada kebijaksanaan government tersebut. Macam mana government kita deal. Okay. So kalau government kita efisien, setahun berikutnya kita akan naik positif balik. Kita tak nak bertahun-tahun negatif. Kalau bertahun-tahun negatif tu tak bagus. Okay, itu dah panggil depression. Okay, dah tahap baru punya recession. Nah, tu nanti kita akan pergi lebih lanjut later. So kalau kita tengok government kita previously doing well lah. Okay, maksudnya walaupun negatif setahun tapi following year dia naik positif. Okay, ini pun sama, negatif naik positif. Yang ini pun 2009 ni negatif tapi naik. Selepas tu naik, 2010 tu naik positif. So kalau you tengok 85 ke 98 lebih kurang 13 tahun. Okay, 98 ke 2009 lebih kurang 11 tahun. Okay, 2009 ke 2020 lebih kurang 11 tahun. Itu cycle. 10 ke 15 tahun. Itulah cycle ekonomi dia. Okay, ekonomi kita akan down, lepas tu naik balik. Selepas 10 ke 15 tahun dia akan turun, naik balik. Itu ekonomi cycle yang kita akan belajar later. Okay. Alright, itu GDP blue line dia. Okay, sekarang kita tengok green line ni. Garis berwarna hijau. Ini adalah contribution of construction industry to GDP. So kalau you tengok GDP kita contribute 3 to 5%. Tak banyak pun sebenarnya. In fact, sometimes kita jadi one of the smallest. Okay, yang ni you boleh tengok nanti. Okay, in fact, kita boleh jadi one of the smallest contribution sector to the GDP in our country. Sedangkan tadi saya dah explain betapa pentingnya ekonomi kita ni pada negara yang membangun macam Malaysia. Kita jadi penggerak utama sebab kita ada multiplier effect. Kesan kita boleh create kesan berganda, kesan berantai itu tadi. Okay, tapi still kita tak contribute banyak. Okay, persoalannya kenapa? Okay, because there are two reasons. First, because of a decline in the number of large-scale infrastructure projects. Okay. Dalam banyak-banyak projek yang government kita introduce, infrastructure project will give more impacts to the economy. Excuse me. Okay, ini for information. Projek-projek yang berbentuk bangunan apa semua ada kesan dia tapi tak sebesar kesannya kepada infrastructure projects. Okay. Okay, kalau you tengok data tu tadi, graf tu tadi 4 to 5% daripada zaman Tun Mahathir jadi Prime Minister 20 tahun. Okay. Masa zaman Tun Mahathir jadi Prime Minister yang first time dulu, bukan yang second time ni, bukan bersama PH, bersama UMNO dulu. Okay. Kenapa zaman dia construction kita tak contribute banyak? Sebab style Tun Mahathir dia implement, dia ada projek infrastruktur ni tapi dia tak implement sekaligus banyak dalam satu masa. Dia buat step by step. Okay. So kalau you tengok pada peringkat awal dulu dia buat plus highway. Okay. Plus highway. Siap plus highway tu later lepas tu barulah dia buat KLIA. Airport. Okay. Selepas siap airport dia buat smart tunnel. Okay, smart tunnel dekat Sungai Besi tu. Okay, dia buat satu-satu. Okay, dia tak buat serentak sekaligus. Dia buat satu-satu. Okay. Selepas in between dah smart tunnel, tak silap saya in between kelahir smart tunnel tu dia buat Empire Bakun. Okay, Empire Bakun kat Sarawak. I'm not sure dah siap ke belum, banyak isu lah. Okay, I'm not going to touch on that. Tapi that's infrastructure project juga lah. Okay, dia buat satu-satu. Okay, selepas siap if I'm not mistaken, lepas siap smart tunnel tu tahun 2002-2003 dia step down. Okay, 4 lah naik. So, dia dah siapkan apa dia punya, apa yang kita perlu buat. Dia punya 4 lah kena buat lah. Which of course bila semua dah naik, ikut dia lah dia nak buat ke tak kan. So kalau you perasan bila 4 lah naik, 4 lah is more on mindset dia, idea dia lebih kepada agriculture. Okay, dia tak towards development sangat. Okay, construction dia kurang dilibatkan. That's why dia cancel second bridge JB Singapore tu. Okay, Pak Lah cancel pun projek tu. Okay. Selepas Pak Lah step down, Datuk Seri Najib naik, barulah kita nampak banyak infrastructure project yang diintroduce by Datuk Seri Najib. Sebenarnya itu dah ada dah master plan dia, cuma nak initiate saja. Okay. Kita ada double track Ipoh Padang Besar. Okay. Kita sekali agung jalan Pen Borneo, ECRL, High Speed Rail Johor, KL, Singapore KL, apa lagi, ECRL, few lah projek yang kalau you tengok perasan zaman Datuk Seri Najib, style dia buat banyak mega projek KLIA 2, okey, tu bawah under Datuk Seri Najib ni projek under masa zaman pemerintahan dia. Okay. So kalau you perasan Datuk Seri Najib punya style, dia implement banyak projek dalam satu masa, dalam masa yang singkat. Bukan style Mahathir, Tuan Mahathir, sorry. Tuan Mahathir ni style dia buat satu-satu. Okay, dan nak siap baru dia implement. Okay, zaman Datuk Seri Najib dia banyak buat style masa yang singkat. That's why masa zaman tersebut 2011, 2012 contribution of construction industry has become the largest contribution sector to GDP. Itulah the only time yang construction industry jadi paling tertinggi contribution dia. I think if not mistaken masa zaman tu 11% tu kita contribute paling tinggi pada ekonomi kita, pada GDP kita. Okay, selepas tu semua setakat 4 to 5%, 3 to 4% kita punya contribution. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, apa yang saya nak tekan kat sini adalah infrastructure project tu peranan dia lebih besar pada ekonomi. Okay, compare to building project lah dan sebagainya. So, if we want to contribute more kepada GDP, we need more infrastructure projects. Okay, and the second one, the return of a cyclical downturn. Apa yang dimaksudkan dengan the return of cyclical downturn ni, walaupun kita banyak projek, okay, walaupun projek kita tu bernilai berbilion ringgit, berpuluh bilion ringgit, tapi bila projek tu siap, contribution kita akan stop pasti. Sebab apa? Sebab bila projek tu siap, ada sektor yang akan contribute pada ekonomi. Sebab itulah kita tak boleh contribute banyak sangat. Okay, sebab bila once projek siap, projek tu operate, ada sektor will contribute. Okay, so secara tak langsung contribution of construction industry stop once the project finish and operated. Okay, right. However, even though we are one of the smallest, still we play a big part in our economy lah, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, peranan kita sangat besar dalam ekonomi. Kita jadi penggerak utama. Later bila kita move on to the next topic dalam government punya policy, nanti kita akan lebih, I'm going to expose to you the important part of construction industry towards our economy lah, lebih detail. Okay, lebih in-depth. Ini just bagi you brief idea saja dulu. Okay? So ada soalan for today's? Ada soalan tak?
Tak ada sir.
Tak ada saya, jelas.
Okay, if tak ada nanti you boleh apa ni, kalau sekarang tak ada, it's okay. Later on bila ada soalan, anything you can ask dalam group lah, tak ada masalah. Okay, so kalau tak ada, esok kita akan sambung lecture. Okay, notes untuk lecture tomorrow class also I already upload in YouFuture. Lecture 2 is focusing on innovation and overseas construction opportunities. Okay, you boleh download. Esok kita akan jumpa lagi pukul 2 lah. As usual, link saya dah share dalam YouFuture. Nanti you buka dari situ. Make sure join 5 to 10 minutes early and don't forget attendance today dalam YouFuture juga. Okay, sebelum I will end up the class, boleh tak semua on camera, saya nak ambil gambar? Ke ada yang ladies, okay ke?
Boleh.
Lelaki tak ada masalah, yang perempuan ni.
Boleh sir, tapi kejap.
Okay, saya bagi 2 minit je. Sarung ni, tudung apa yang ada.
Doktor,
Ya,
macam mana nak tahu percentage project? Dia nak tahu macam percentage tu naik. Macam tahun ni berapa banyak projek.
boleh tengok dalam
tu
department
dia
of statistik. You
dalam
buka
tu
department of
juga.
statistik tu, you kena explore sikit lah sebab I berbuka semalam, dia, I think dia just apa ni, upgrade dia orang punya layout of the website. So tak berapa friendly sangat lah yang baru ni, compare yang lama tu macam easy, user friendly sikit. Yang ni you kena explore sikit, dia ada dalam tu. Even total number of project in each state kat setiap negeri semua ada. Sepatutnya ada dalam tu. You boleh cari.
Right. Thank you.
Alright. Class rep ada new students yang dah ready boleh on camera, tak perlu tunggu kawan-kawan.
Belum ada update, sir.
Dah ada?
Belum ada.
Belum ada. Yesterday KPP informed me that there will be 20 more students coming in total lah, berdasarkan keputusan rayuan. So group U maybe akan bertambah jadi satu group dalam 20, 22, 23.
Noted.
Sabar, belum ambil lagi. Tengok muka masing-masing ni tak pernah jumpa kan. You all pun tak pernah nampak muka kawan-kawan kan?
Afi diminta bertenang Afi.
Effect class CTU.